Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. I am so excited that we are going to be finalizing our dresses today. This is using the 1950s Sisters Dress pattern by Edelweiss Patterns, which is my pattern company, and it's the brand new design for fall and winter of 2020. So you can see here I am in my sewing room and I'm wearing one of my very favorite party dresses. This is a mint brocade fabric, which I made using a mail order pattern from the 50s. Today we will be assembling our dresses and putting the final finishing touches on them. The skirt and the bodice that we've made in previous weeks will all be coming together. So the very first step here is that we want to run a row of gathering stitches along the top edge of the assembled skirt. Starting at the outer edges, pin the skirt to the lower bodice edge with the right sides together. And as you can see, I have my kitty, I have a feline visitor in my sewing room. She is a little bit fonder of fabric and patterns than I would like her to be. I'm very familiar with kitties, but this one has a specific personality, which is a little bit challenging when you're sewing. She has the heart of a dinosaur. So with the kitty removed from the premises, I am now going to attach the bodice and the skirt. Now, keep in mind the skirt is going to be a little bit wider than the bodice, which is what those gathering stitches are for. So start by matching up the edges on one side and on the other side. And now I'm drawing up the gathering stitch. It's best to pull on the bobbin side as opposed to the upper thread. And then I'm just adjusting all the fullness because you want it to fit smoothly and without any really visible gathers. So once you have it gathered to where the two sides will fit, it's time to pin the skirt and the bodice together. So you can see here it's all pinned and ready to stitch. And once that seam is finished, we are going to run a zigzag along both edges individually. And then we're going to press the seam and finally press it open. Okay, so the seam is pressed open and we are ready to go to the next step. We are going to sew the skirt at the back seams below the notch according to the directions here. And it's worth noting that each of the two tulle skirt layers will get their own seam and the taffeta will get its own seam as well. And you want to start at the notch there, which is below the waist. And so I will stitch with my typical 5/8 inch seam and then zigzag the edges as I have right here and then pressed it open. And next I'm moving on to the tulle layers. So with that finished, I am now overlocking the edge of the opening where the zipper will go. Okay, so press under 5/8 inch along the back opening of the bodice and skirt. Pin the zipper in place starting just slightly below the top of the lace overlay. So we're folding under the 5/8 inch here and pressing it in place. And then what I've done with the zipper is I have folded under the pinked edge, and I've positioned the top of the zipper just slightly below the top of the bodice because we want to leave room for that hook and eye. And then you can see I have my my tailor's ham underneath the skirt and underneath the bodice here so that I can pin more easily the zipper into place because I really want to make sure everything lines up. So you can see we're going to stitch going down, pivot, and then stitch back up. So I'm going to exchange my zipper foot for the regular presser foot in order to maneuver more easily. And you're really going to need all the room you can get, so I am taking off that extra attachment from my machine. So we're getting right up to the edge of the zipper. You put your needle down, you pivot, and put the presser foot back down, stitch just along the edge of the zipper, and then pivot again to come back up the other side. And again, I'm making sure that the edge of that zipper is folded under before I finish the final stitching here. Okay, so the dress is all assembled, and the only thing for us to do now is to hem it and then to put on those sashes. So according to the instructions, you want to let the dress hang on a hanger for 3 days if at all possible. Obviously, in this sew along, I actually had you guys sew the circular skirts first, for this specific reason, so that if you got to this step and you really needed your costume finished, you wouldn't have to wait the extra 3 days. Go ahead and trim off anything that doesn't even up along the edge, and then once that's finished, we are going to zigzag or overlock the bottom edge of the skirt, press up 1/4 inch, and stitch. And then for the tulle overlay, you do not need to hem it. All you're going to do is trim it up afterwards. And then if you have been sewing a while and you know what you're doing, you don't actually have to use iron to press up the 1/4 inch. You can just kind of eyeball it as you go, which is what I'm doing here. This taffeta has a really nice weight to it, and it folds very easily, much more easily than if you're trying to hem like a cotton without ironing it first. Okay, so the entire skirt is hemmed and we need to press it really well. A lot of people, I see their finished skirts and the dress looks really nice, but the hem is just bubbly and it doesn't look good. If you've put all this work into it, you definitely owe it to yourself to press it really well. Obviously, don't use a heat setting higher than what is recommended for your fabric. Okay, so moving on to the sashes, you can see this pattern piece calls for 1 sash to be cut on the longer line and 1 on the shorter line. So in the appendix it says to zigzag or overlock the entire area around the sash, and then we're going to press it under. So I'm starting by finishing that raw edge. And here we have the finished sash once it's all pressed under. So now we are going to take the 2 ties and pin them with the shorter one closer to the middle and the longer one closer to the bodice side. And then I'm pinning in place before I hand stitch these. Just using a back stitch here, it makes for invisible stitching on the outside and a short stitch on the inside. Then I have pulled my thread to the inside of the garment, and I'm just taking a teensy stitch, taking it down to as small of a loop as you can manage, wrapping the thread around, pulling it tight, and you are done. The dress is finished. It's been a lot of work, but it's been totally worth it. And if the tulle is too long for your liking, you can go ahead and even that out. Also worth noting, I don't think I showed you guys sewing the hook and eye at the top of the back opening, but you can absolutely do that. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me the last 3 weeks. This has been a really fun sew along. I wanted to celebrate the release of the new pattern with you guys. This is not goodbye. I will definitely be making more videos in the future. Vintage beauty, vintage fashion, vintage lifestyle. So I hope you guys have a fabulous time wearing your dresses. Please tag me in your pictures on social media. Also, you can send photographs to info@edelweisspatterns.com. I'm showing you views B and C. That's just another way you can make the pattern. And there are more photographs of that on www.edelweisspatterns.com. And I will see you next time here on the Edelweiss Patterns YouTube channel.